Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Oshawa Curling Club, site of the Canadian Junior Cup. My name is Matthew Hall, bringing you all the action from play here the first 2 days. As we have a quick look at our standings here, we are now on to our second women's draw. Everyone has played a game. On the left side of your screen are the winners, right side of the screen are your losers looking to bounce back. And today we have a very good matchup. We have Team Einspieler from St. Gallen, Switzerland, facing off against Team Scheel from Minneapolis, Minnesota, United States. Team Scheel, Skip Miranda Scheel is backed up by lead Amelia Hintz, second Tessa Thurlow, the vice is Jordan Hine, and Team Einspieler from Switzerland. The skip Isabella Einspieler, lead Renee Frigo, second Lynn Haupt, and vice Alyssa Rudolph. And sitting beside me once again, it was so nice she decided to do it twice. Mary Chilvers has decided to stick around. Thank you, Mary.
No problem, Matt. My pleasure.
It's always nice to have another person up here, so I'm
I
not
bet.
just talking to myself.
I
seem
get
a
it.
little less crazy that way.
Yeah, I get it.
But I think we're in for a very good matchup here. Both of these teams winning their first game, coming off of very strong performances. Not only that, but having a lot of experience. We do have, this is the reigning U.S. women's national team and the U.S. junior women's national team, excuse me. And the team from Switzerland, I was able to peek over at a little bit of their first game, and they seemed like a very strong team as well. So I think we're in for a very, very good matchup here.
Yeah, nice for us back here to get a little international viewing here on these teams.
Once again, it looks like we're not looking to play here in the first end. We heard them saying just before we came live that at least the U.S. team was willing to keep things clean, so they drew the top four. The Swiss team has decided to, and we've exchanged hits a little bit here. Now see our first rocks by the American second Tessa Thurlow. Both coming off of wins, though I wouldn't expect to see this happening for too long in this game before we see some rocks going in play. Both teams are probably fairly confident after their first matchups.
Yeah, I think this is draw 3 now, and they've had a chance to play on the ice and maybe watch a little bit of the men's games to get a good idea of what the ice is doing out here. What we've noticed is it's very fast to start the game off. I think that some of the teams got a little fooled near the sixth end of play, where it does tend to slow down a bit. So something that they need to keep an eye on.
Definitely keep that in mind as we move forward in this game. Not wasting any time here, though, moving forward, wanting to just scrap this first end and move on to the second. Team Scheel, as we said, are the reigning U.S. Junior Women's Champions, winning the national championships last year. They will represent the United States at the World Juniors in February. So we wish them the best of luck there. We actually have another player in the field, Emily Deshane, just one sheet over on sheet 3, who will also be at those World Championships. She actually just came off a big win at the World Junior Bs, actually getting Canada back into the World Championships.
That's right. And kind of a funny story, Matt, when we were coming home from the seniors, which was we were flying out of Halifax, we ran into them at the Halifax airport.
Yes, because I believe the rest of her team are from Halifax,
Yeah.
whereas Emily's from here, yes.
Small curling world, huh? Yeah.
And as we mentioned in 2 broadcasts earlier, there are 8 men's teams and 12 women's teams at this event playing off for the chance to represent Canada at the Swiss Cup in February in Switzerland. So the winners of this event will receive a week-long paid trip to Switzerland to compete in that event. Should be an incredible experience, I think, for anyone at this level to get that international, not just to travel to Europe, and it's a beautiful place in the world, but to actually compete against other international teams and get that experience would be huge for them.
We had our first miss here. Open hit, and I guess, Matt, what we've seen is that there's definitely a side on this ice that curls and a side that's a little straighter, and they definitely got caught up on that curl side. So now
we have seen some misses on both the men's and women's games this morning. The way they're throwing right now, the out turns of the turn that they're currently throwing will curl a little bit more, especially coming from the outside into the center line. Rock slipping a little bit deep, so maybe getting a touch caught on how fast the ice is here in the first end, but stuck around, so forcing the U.S. to try to make a good hit and roll here. Of course, Hammer was decided by a draw to the button prior to the game. It was the U.S. actually missing the rings going through, and so there was no pressure on the Swiss team. But of course, the draw for Hammer still matter in terms of tiebreakers at the end of the week. So they did quite well grabbing the back of the button to win the Hammer in this matchup, and now looking pretty strong after an early U.S. miss.
nice roll there, though, by the U.S., and now it's forcing the Swiss to sort of bunch their rocks together here. They can get a bit of a roll, but not too much to the other side.
Yeah, and you see it a lot, especially with the less experienced teams, maybe, where they try to sort of, and here unfortunately rolls out, so now we're back to square one. But usually in those kinds of situations, you see some less experienced teams, for lack of a better term, you try to sort of fix the problem all at one time. You know, if you have some sort of thin double or a really crazy double, teams will take that on, where you don't have to do that. You just sort of slowly try and work your way to the other side of the sheet.
Yeah.
Try to group up the stones, get the chance for a double later, and now here, after just a hit and roll out even, they're right back to where they wanted to be, looking to blank this first end. This is the U.S. third, Miranda Scheel, who calls the game but throws the third rocks.
This is a nice chance if you're a skip, is to be able to throw a non-pressure draw in the first end just to get comfortable with draw weight.
Yeah, these are really important. Especially, I believe you have to rotate who throws the draw for hammers. So I don't believe it actually was Isabel who threw it prior to the game. I think it was Renee, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a great chance for her to sort of figure out exactly what the ice is doing, put this rock in a good spot. Sweepers don't seem to mind it, but we have seen these kinds of spots glide really well. And this rock does not want to stop. It's going to go all the way to the back of the rings. It's difficult to see. Looks like they maybe are going to hit it. So it must be just touching the rings back there. But those are really important. As you said, that's a free opportunity, even if you don't make the draw, and this one just hung around, but it's a little bit deep. It gives the skip an opportunity of something to work off of moving forward in the game. Now the rest of the team can sort of base what they're telling her off of that shot. So if she has to throw another draw, they can tell her to throw 4 feet less or the same if it starts to slow down.
Yeah, I think the teams are, just from what I've observed in this game and the last, is a lot of draws are going in the hack or close to it. And they have to remember that it's really fast to begin with, and they have sweepers.
Miranda Scheel there making the final hit. As I will correct myself, she is actually the skip, throws the last rocks.
Okay.
I was one rock off of where I thought we were in the end, if I'm going to be quite honest. But does throw the final stones, is the skip. Is able to just remove that rock. Not able to stick around, so this will be a free throw for Isabel. And it'll be interesting to see how she throws this, whether these are good opportunities to maybe bring the weight down, throw a nice board or hack, and see what the ice is doing down a certain spot. But she's throwing off the line, maybe just a nice board weight, so she's going to get a good look at it. There we go. Toss it up. Tosses 0 up on the board. We have a blank to start this game. 0-0 after 1M. When we come back, Team Einspieler will hold on to the hammer. We'll take a quick commercial break.
Anyone can be scared to try something new.
But moving outside of your comfort zone
can open new possibilities.
And having the courage to change something
doesn't change who you are.
So why try something new?
To innovate, to create a legacy,
to make an impact.
You have to earn it.
And you better be ready to enjoy it.
Because you never know who else you might make an impact on.
What impact will you make?
Goldline, the choice of champions.
And welcome back to the second end of play here in this Draw 3 matchup. Canadian Junior Cup coming to you from Oshawa, Ontario. We have the Americans team Scheel facing off against the Swiss in this matchup. The Americans throwing the red stones, trying to draw into the top of the forefoot, but this looks quite heavy. Will probably slip the back, if not through. It does, so I think maybe just getting a little bit caught on how quick the ice is.
Yeah, like I had just said that in the last end. I don't know, just not quite thinking. I know sometimes it feels like you're almost hogging the rock when you're on really fast ice, but you got to believe it. And remember, you have sweepers that can help it out.
Yeah. And, you know, especially when you're trying to draw top four, like to start, and then you have a lot of room to work with. If you're a little bit light, you know, they can leave it as a tight guard, and that's no issue either.
Now, even this one's going to slip in. That's why they're bringing it right in.
That does slip into the ring, so no time wasted. Miranda Scheel's going to walk up and ask her lead, Amelia Hintz, to remove the stone. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening here if the Swiss... It's really up to the Swiss now. If they want to continue to sort of play, they can toss up the corner guard sort of for free or continue to hit the rock.
Yeah, it really seems that, I don't, maybe it's just the ages of these players that they take zero risks. So this red rock here is not of any risks to the Swiss team. However, they could put up a corner guard, which cannot be removed.
And especially with the way this sheet is sort of shaped, if you want to call it that, everything curls a bit more towards the other side of the sheet. So you could toss a corner guard up there. It'll be easy to get around. It's something that you can use. And, I mean, sure, if the Americans want to guard that rock that's over on the side forefoot or something, that's fine. You're not necessarily worried about that. You should be able to draw the forefoot, or you shouldn't be afraid to draw the forefoot.
Right, yeah.
Here looks like we're going to be exchanging some hits here. So, Mary, you had a great experience actually this year going to the senior nationals for Ontario, playing lead, and maybe you can talk about how, like, so going back to a national championship, I believe it was your first one in 25 years, correct?
Yeah.
Was that something that you guys, how did you guys sort of decide that, playing with those, maybe what might have been nerves early, being back at a national championship? Did you guys decide to sort of play a little bit more defensively, or were you ones that, or did you just say, this is an opportunity that,
Mhm.
you might never get again, and you want to sort of push the envelope a little bit, enjoy it a bit more.
Well, funny enough, we never decided we're going to play defensively. It was a decision that first game, we were always putting up a guard if we didn't have the hammer,
Mm-hmm.
a tight guard.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not so sure I was 100% in on that because it did tend to get us into a little bit of trouble sometimes. But no, we played fairly offensively, I would say. It's just the way our team rolls. And, we had a very good coach come with us, Kim Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And she just had so much good advice for us on how to strategize through that Canadian Championship. And yeah, it was all good.
Here as we watch another free draw coming from the Swiss team, getting the opportunity to see what the ice is doing. Looks like they might get that corner guard.
Yeah,
we've been waiting
sometimes
for.
you get what you don't want. They're not calling the corner, but looks like they're going to get it. She's probably a US are going to hit it anyways.
I would imagine so. I mean, if you played the end out this way so far, there's no reason to take on the risk.
Yeah.
They will try to hit and roll, and these are those ones where, I wouldn't mind even throwing a peel at this.
Mhm.
Like, throw a little extra weight, because you're trying to roll into the rings, obviously, if you would like, but the only thing you don't want to do is nose it and leave a corner guard for your opposition. So they are going to bring the weight. They set about a 10-5, so better control, hit weight, try and roll towards the center line. Do get a little bit of a roll, but don't make it into the rings. It looks like my Swiss German isn't all that great,
No.
Mary, but it sounds like they're deciding which way to draw. They have decided to draw, which is a little bit interesting. I guess it wasn't necessarily their decision to keep this wide open. They had the chance to throw up a corner guard earlier, but I'm a little bit surprised that this is the rock they've decided to sort of go after or go around. This one being pretty close to the center, and with how tight it is, it's difficult to draw this to a good spot, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they had chances earlier on to put some rocks in play, which would be not as risky.
Mm-hmm.
And now this center line guard here, they've decided to come around, which to me is more risk.
Mm-hmm. And not quite getting there. We've seen a lot, especially for 2 draws this morning on this side of the sheet. Not quite as much finish, not quite as much curl. If you get a little bit wider, it has a tendency to track on you, and the draw just doesn't quite get in there. So the chance for the Americans now to hit and roll, if they can hit and roll this buried, then the force is a really good option for them this end. A great shot there, more or less getting buried, about 2/3 buried. It is accessible for the Swiss if they wanted to play a hack waiter, but as I said on this side of the sheet, any extra weight, this can be a very difficult shot to execute. And you always risk ticking that guard into the rings as well, so you have to be very precise here. Sort of what I said. I think she just wanted, it seemed like they just wanted sort of hack weight that was a little bit heavy, maybe just a little bit wide, and you aren't able to get that finish back on that side. US choosing the same side to draw around, which makes sense. This is the turn that they threw for their draw for hammer, so they should have a good idea about what it's doing. I thought the in turn, you might have a better chance of getting in there buried to a better spot. Even if you're light, it ends up as a center guard, which isn't necessarily
Yeah.
bad for you. This should be a very good result, though, if you make it.
I think they might be thinking because their back rock there is slightly exposed, they're kind of thinking they're going to come the same side. But I agree. I think you should come the side that curls more. This has got a lot of weight on it, I think.
Yeah. That's tons of weight. Maybe they can tick that red rock in behind. No. So 2 shots there in a row and nothing's moved.
That's very surprising at how heavy that draw was because, you know, you have options there. You can be light, top 12.
And we've definitely seen our share of heavy rocks so far with how quick the sheet was, but that was almost hacker board weight,
Yes,
even like that.
yeah.
I don't know if maybe that was a miscommunication on what they were trying to do, or between the sweepers and the thrower. No, but either way, it's the same opportunity here for the Swiss to remove this back stone. Still need to be very precise. Again, this isn't an easy shot.
No, it's not. Another option is just come around the guard. You can
could
still
take the
get
draw,
2
yeah.
points.
Freeze it pretty much anywhere in there, and it's not
Yeah, yeah.
not that accessible. This one looks quite heavy again.
Yeah, they're just not catching on. Like, I think they're also giving a little bit of an outward motion in a spot that is so straight.
You heard the discussion was had there very quickly by the Americans that they would love to get this into the top 8 foot if they can, but even if it's a tight guard, that gets you your force that you're looking for, and you would force the Swiss to throw the other side of the sheet, which hasn't been thrown in a while.
Right, that's true.
And I mean, thinking about those 2 Swiss rocks that were missed, what concerns me about that is they were missed the same way.
Right.
Right? You had heavy, and then you had heavy again, and essentially missed. So you're not getting any additional information from that. What you'd like to see is, ideally, you don't want to see 2 misses in a row. But if you're going to see it, you'd like to see the adjustment. And this one, another very heavy rock.
And funny enough, that was missed the same way
Yeah.
as well.
So 4 rocks in a row, 2 per team that were essentially very heavy, little bit wide, maybe 2, but just getting caught. No one really jumping onto what they need to do here. So now it's going to be the opportunity for the Swiss here. You could actually play for a blank by running back that red rock. You make the double, you get the blank. You could also just draw the 4 foot for your single point.
Interesting that so she's going to play the draw. She's coming the same way she previously did. I think there's a little more room on the other side of the rings. However, as you said, Matt, they haven't played over there.
Yeah, but
for
what's
a bit.
surprising to me about that is they threw that other side of the sheet for their draw for hammer.
Yeah.
And now Isabella didn't throw the draw for hammer. Like I said, I think it was Renee who did it, but the intern, you'd think you would have a good idea, and it looks like after having discussions with her front end, coming to that conclusion that even if it's something you haven't played, we've seen 4 misses in a row on that other side. It seems so precise to make that out turn draw in this moment that I think just take the spot that you should have a really good guess on based on the draw for hammer and try and get this into the 4 foot. Sweeper's backing off of it a little bit early. The inside sweeper is Lynn Haupt. She's had her arm out this entire time. This does look a little heavy. It might curl up to the backing. No, it's going to slip right by. So after all that, 5 heavy misses in a row to finish that end. And Americans come out of it with a steal of 1. They're going to take a 1-0 lead after 2 ends of play. The Swiss will try and clap back with their hammer in the third end when we come back after this quick commercial break.
Doesn't matter if you're just learning how to play
Or competing at the top level of the game.
We'll go for fun.
And gold line gear?
This is for everyone.
These shoes are more comfortable than ever.
These are stable.
These make me slide straight.
These make me slide fast.
The new impact head maximizes performance.
And can we talk about grip zone technology?
Because it's on the brooms and the gloves.
Beginner or pro, they got something for you.
It's a gold line.
It's a gold line.
It's a gold line.
And it's the choice of champions.
We're back picking up play here in the third end. See the American lead, Amelia Heinz, throwing the red stones here to start, calling for a draw to the top of the forefoot. And I mean, Mary, it's pretty hard to sugarcoat it a little bit. 5 zeros more or less to finish that last end. And here starting off with another one as Amelia throws her stone through the rings.
Yeah, I don't understand how you. I don't want to be critical. We've been timing the ice. I could hear the girls timing the ice, and one of the draws that was thrown, she said, was a 13.5. Well, this ice right now is probably 15.5, and I mean, I can understand a little bit heavy. I can't understand where guards are going into the hack.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, it's one of those things, especially where if you don't necessarily have that feel for draw weight, or the team doesn't have that feel for draw weight, that's fine. But at some point, just try to throw a guard or something, right? Try to miss that light weight.
Exactly.
Because it can be really difficult to continuously miss shots the same way and have to like pull it back a little bit more, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've always been of the thought where, you know, if you're that constant bit heavy all the time when you're trying to say draw the button, try to throw a high guard.
Right. Think in your
or just
mind.
feel like
Yes.
you're trying to throw a high guard. And once you have sort of both sides of the, if you end up coming light, that's fine. Now you have both sides of that. You can try and zero in on where you need to be with that weight.
Yep, I agree.
Again, the Swiss slipping into the rings on that guard. The Americans wasting no time to hit it, and you have a pretty wide open end here now. The Swiss will try to throw up another corner guard.
And I know it is hard to throw guards on really fast ice. You do almost feel like when you're kicking out, oh my God, I'm hogging this rock. But you're not.
Yeah.
And you just got to get it in your head.
And that's the thing. I mean, you know, I don't know about you, but I played in a lot of competitions where I never actually felt or like knew what draw weight felt like. But like just in your head, if it was really fast ice and I was throwing and I was like, this feels like a guard, then I just knew that was good.
Yeah.
Because whatever it ended up being as a draw, if it didn't feel that way in my head, you just have to sort of believe what you're seeing, believe what you're feeling, and just sort of stick with it, rather than sort of, you know, beating your head against the wall, for example, and trying to figure it out. But
it's also similar when the ice is heavy and you keep coming up light, and you have to tell yourself, think of it as hack weight.
throw hack.
And it's so hard to do.
This is another one here, slipping right through the ring, so.
So the Swiss get a chance here to go around their corner guard.
And they just threw this draw a little, not, I guess on the last shot they threw this guard here, so they should have a very good idea of how much this is going to curl and what the speed should be.
This is a call you see quite often. Let's try to hit this guard and roll for our own center guard. That's one of the hardest shots to play and make.
I agree, especially with the excuse me, with a team that's been, well, I mean, struggling.
Yeah.
I think a little bit, and most of the struggles have been with the weight. But calling such a precise shot like that was a bit surprising. But you know, the good thing about that is you try to throw that extra weight. End of the day, if you make the peel, there's nothing wrong with that. So they end up making the peel. We now have a wide open end. There's a really good chance for both teams to sort of take a deep breath, reset, try to figure out with these free draws what the speed exactly is, and try to throw stuff to your sweepers and adjust.
Another thing the Swiss team could do here is try to draw over to the other side. Change it up, and I do actually think if you get a corner guard on the other side, you can get a rock around it better. I think it'll curl more. That didn't curl very much, so.
We've seen that. We saw that with the last game when
Yeah.
we were watching Rooney and Dobson. The intern, you can get a little bit of curl when you're drawing towards the center line if your weight is good. But especially off the center, it's almost impossible to get any kind of finish. So I do agree with you. I think they should switch the side. A, just because, you know, switch it up. If things aren't working, just change things up. But B, I think that would be the better side to try and make a draw, try to toss up a guard on anyways.
We're just seeing so many rollouts as well.
The sweepers seem to not too much worried about this one as much. See if this one's able to stick around. And it won't. Another rock that just slips through the rings. Now get a look at Jordan Hine throwing her second rock at this end, attempting to draw into the top of the forefoot to continue looking towards a blank this end. And I'm a bit, I guess both sides have been struggling.
Yes.
And so I understand the idea of, you know, not wanting to junk it up, tossing it into the ring, this one heavy again.
Goodness.
Do you ever consider throwing up a guard at some point when you see how much the other team is? Now, you're both struggling with the weight, clearly. Would you ever try and push the envelope, do you think? Or do you think it's better that they just continue to, you know, just toss it in, just play for the blank and try and get their feet underneath them a little bit?
Because they're so young and haven't had all the life experiences, they're tending to have a little bit of tunnel vision. They're kind of just thinking of what they need to do, and they're not taking into effect some of the other things. As you said, if the other team's struggling, maybe we should try to push the envelope. I don't think they're thinking that way.
And it plays into a little bit. I mean, we've seen, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I think we've seen maybe 7 or 8 draws thrown through the rings in the last end, 2 ends of curling. So it's not necessarily a bad idea to try and throw a guard either. If you make the guard, you now have something to work off of with your weight. And if you're heavy again, then you make the draw anyways into the top of the forefoot. And I think that's what it's like. I think once you have that feeling of what a guard is or what a draw is, then you can work off of that a little bit better rather than, you know, throwing these 6 to 8 rocks through the rings. You're not learning anything sort of from them.
And that's why it's so important that they have a coach behind the glass, because you need, like, look what we're observing here, because we're not on the ice. It's a totally different thing when you're out there. So that's what the coaches need to sort of point out to these girls of some of the mistakes that they're making, and that they keep making the same mistake.
Well, a good hit there by Miranda Scheel. Sticks around in the rings and forces Isabel Einspieler to make the hit back. This is the side that we've seen a couple over curls on too, so you have to keep in mind that you want to, if anything, miss a little heavy, miss a little on the wide side. It should curl back for you. Did just that. They have the outside sweeper on it the whole way, and it does end up coming back for her. Does stick around on the side of the ring, so trading hits here with the Americans.
So obviously the Americans want to stick around on this hit just to at least make it a little bit challenging for the Swiss to get this blank. Make them work for it.
Is able to make the hit, actually rolls to the center line. Just what you wanted. You want to roll somewhere new, make her throw a new spot for this peel, this blank. This is a spot that we've seen Miranda Scheel be a little bit tight, have that overcurl. I believe 2 ends ago, she almost flashed a rock in the back of the rings in about that same spot. So she makes the adjustment, is able to hit and stick around. Final shot here in the third end by Isabel Einspieler, looking to make the hit and roll out for the blank. Outside sweeper is Lynn Hoped, trying to get it to curl up. She will make contact, remove the redstone, roll her shooter out of the ring, so it's another 0 up on the board. The Americans will continue to hold a 1-0 lead going into the fourth end, and we'll see if the Swiss can finally get something going for themselves, get some rocks in play, and try to come back with a deuce.
I missed a shot.
I made the wrong call. I didn't sweep hard enough.
We let you down.
At least that's what they say.
Like they want us to quit.
But that's not who we are.
That's not what champions do. Champions fight back.
Champions rise again.
Champions are resilient.
And make no mistake,
We are champions.
Gold Line, the choice of champions.
And we're back here in the fourth end of play. Draw 3 action from the Canadian Junior Cup here in Oshawa. I'm Matthew Hall. Alongside me is Mary Chilvers once again. I'll be bringing you all the action of the first 2 days of play here. We see the U.S. lead, Amelia Heinz, making this draw to the forefoot. It looks like we've finally seen an adjustment here, Mary. Sweepers get involved. Sweep it right down. Back of the forefoot. And now the Swiss are going to try to throw up a corner guard. So we might have some rocks in play here.
Well, the question is, can we make this corner guard? Because if the ice isn't quick enough, it's usually even quicker going to the wings.
Mm-hmm.
They're sweeping it, so this one looks pretty good.
This should carry for them well. Should get some nice curl too. That's kind of what you want to see after those last two ends.
Yeah.
You know, in all honesty, that rock was probably thrown a little bit light because the sweepers had to work the whole way to get it there, but that's fine. Now you have something to work off
Right.
of. You can take that, put that in the back of your head and know that that's your guard weight and adjust 6 feet from there for a draw.
So I believe USA here would like this to be in front of the ring. She's calling it top 12, but I think a better call is just to put it really tight to the rings.
Yeah, you know, a second rock in the rings, that might be okay if you're, say, up 3,
Right.
you know, even up 2, you could probably, but just when it's a 1-point game, I don't know, coming into the rings, I don't think the other team's necessarily in a position where they have to throw up a second corner, so they could make the play on it right away. Those 2 rocks, especially for the Americans, are not in the best position. They would have liked to see either of them be well above the tee line. So now the Swiss sort of have free reign to try to toss one around this guard. You don't have to worry about those rocks on the button. Even if the Americans decide to guard it, you should be able to make a play on them at some point. This one maybe slipping a little bit deep, catching the sweepers off guard. We'll see what Miranda can do with it. Just bringing it back into the 12-foot. Still not a bad result, though.
Nope.
It is buried.
It's in there, yeah.
And now we're playing curling, Mary.
Yeah.
We have some rocks in play.
And again, Scheel is calling this one in the rings as well, which again is not the best move, I would say. I mean, if I'm Team Switzerland, I'm quite happy that they're playing into the rings and giving me kind of some choices on how to score a couple here.
It looks like that might have been the original. Well, she is signaling maybe just really tight.
Okay, she
This
was
is
calling it tight,
A
yeah.
little bit heavy. Unfortunately, just with all those red stones there, it's difficult to, you know, it's all the red stones behind the tee line, I should say. It sort of makes things easier for the Swiss. I don't know if you necessarily have to throw. I don't know if you necessarily have to blast this, Mary, and get a bunch of them out there. You could throw something light, like a little tap freeze sort of option. Get one in there. With all those red stones there, the Americans are never going to be able to remove it.
Yeah.
This one coming down with some weight. Looks like they wanted to remove some red stones, but this could jam at the back. And it will. That was one of the things I was worried about. You make this really good, and yes, that yellow stone is well above the other red, so it's going to be difficult to remove for the Americans. And if you were to do that, you probably just pick it out and lose your shooter. The Swiss could then go around the corner. But I thought there was an opportunity there. If you maybe play just the freeze or the bump or something like that, then you would have the option to keep it in there and not necessarily remove a bunch of rocks.
Yeah.
And you would have, that yellow would have been much more secure, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I think when the opposition sees a bunch of your opposition's rocks in the 4-foot area, you get a little scared. But
and that's actually a pretty good result. I think they would have liked to get that a little bit closer to nose. did move it off of that backing, so it's no longer more or less frozen, and it is still accessible. They didn't bump it behind the guard.
So a good shot here for the Swiss. Don't worry that there's 2 red rocks in there. Just get rid of the one, but make sure you stick around and you have two rocks in the rings. They don't have to be sitting first and second.
Yeah, if you can hit and roll in front of the other ones, it'll be very difficult to remove both yellow stones. This one tracking a little wide, though. Is she going to make the double? She will, but
rolls out, which is kind of...
yeah, that was one of the things. It didn't necessarily have to make the double. I don't think that was the call. I think they just wanted to nose it or make the hit and roll, but now the Americans will have access to that yellow stone. It looks like it's maybe at most half buried, so we've seen as well this is the side that curls a bit more, so as long as you don't overthrow it too much, you're going to get some finish. The third for the Americans, Tessa Thurlow, is a lefty, so this is a little bit more difficult to get at, and just sort of backed that up a little, I think, on her release, and wasn't able to come back. And you know, one of the things I will say, I wouldn't necessarily say the ice is tricky out there. It actually seems quite predictable, but it punishes poor throws.
Right.
I will say.
Yeah.
It is very release sensitive, but even more so weight sensitive.
Yes.
You throw the extra 2 feet of weight, you throw board when you're trying to throw hack, and it runs so much straighter than you expect it to. And we've seen a lot of teams struggle so far with just not only the draw weight, like we've seen earlier this game, but also the hit weight. Just those overthrows make it so difficult to not only keep the shooter, but even make contact, as we saw there.
This one's well past the guard.
Yeah, and this one just not quite getting that finish that they're hoping for. Gonna end up about edge on edge with the guard. Maybe there's a little bit of space there. Difficult to tell. They might be able to get to nose and make the double that way. See this one again where you could bring the weight down a little bit, hit it closer to nose, remove one of the yellow stones and at least stay in front, and that would make things very difficult for the Swiss. Looks like she might have straightened this one out a bit. They might be trying to play the thin double over the top now. Will it come up? It will make contact with both. Both yellows will spin out of the ring, so she makes the double, but leaves the free draw around the corner. And that's just one of those situations, I think, where the double is really nice, but you're just leaving a free shot for the opposition. And just because you can make the double doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the best shot, even without the hammer. If you can make a nice hit and control your shooter, that can almost be better.
So unfortunately, they leave that guard as sort of a center line guard now. So USA is not too upset about that. They're going to try to wrap one around that guard.
Americans very happy with that center guard there, and they are choosing the side that curls a little bit more. We'll definitely see more finish. Think of as we've seen, you don't really see that finish coming off of the center line, but with this kind of shot drawing towards the center line, we will see that curl. This one's all about weight control. As long as you're close with your weight, your sweepers should be able to hold the line for you. Really need to go on the line now. Need to get this by the guard. They will. Now it's all about the weight. Put it in the top of the button. Again, just a little bit heavy, making the adjustment, but just slipping back, making a little bit of an adjustment, but just slipping into the back of the 8-foot. Leaves an opportunity now for the Swiss to follow her down and put a rock in a good spot. And I would imagine she's going to be fairly close on this. This is a little bit wider than the draw she tried to play 2 ends ago for a single point. The sweepers should have a good idea of what the weight is here. Falling hard line, need to get it by the guard. It looks okay though. Looks like it's following a very similar line to Miranda Scheel's stone. Again, maybe just that little bit heavy. Gonna lock this right on the back.
I'm not sure how much communication's going on there between the sweepers and the person in the house, because I do know they had to sweep it a little bit to get it by, but it did end up getting by quite a bit. But the bigger point is how heavy it actually was.
Yeah, and one of the things there is, especially like, that might be the first time you've thrown that spot in a while, but you just saw the Americans play that exact same shot. And you should have been watching how their rock reacted. You should have been paying just maybe a bit more attention, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they got by that guard. It was close, but there were still a couple inches to work with. There's definitely shouldn't have been as much of a panic to get it by that guard.
Yeah.
Here we'll see if Miranda's able to make the adjustment to try and make the same shot, but just 3-4 feet less weight. Even if you can lock this on the yellow, for the Americans that's fine. That should guarantee you a force. This one's heavy as well. It will tap it, but it comes up to the nose enough that
That's pretty good.
it does the job.
Mm-hmm.
No shot for 2 here, so it'll just be a straight draw for 1 for Isabel Einspieler.
It just shows you how when you put, your draws behind the tee line, you're basically letting the other team off the hook.
Yeah. And, sometimes you can get away with it when you don't have the hammer. Like here when you're going around the center and the Americans, they end up making the freeze. It's fine, but especially with the hammer, that's where you have to be putting those rocks in good spots, have the discussions with your teammates about what's good and what's not, and not sort of let them off the hook quite as much.
Yeah.
But here, final shot in the 4th end. The skip Isabel Einspieler, needing the 4-foot to score her single point. Sweepers are on this early, though, so she might have pulled the string after that first one a little bit. I don't think so, Mary. This looks like it's going to be a halfway guard. Comes up, wrecks on the guard. It is a steal of 1 for Miranda Scheel and the Americans. They'll take a 2-0 lead going into the back half of this game. We'll take a quick commercial break. Then myself and Mary will pick things up for the 5th end with the Americans throwing first.
Hey guys, welcome to the Stu Sells team's brand new listing, and we are in Rosedale, one of the most expensive, prestigious neighborhoods in the city. Now, the best thing about this house is you have 2 options. You can buy this house for the lot, 42 feet by 100 feet deep, and you can do whatever you want. You can build your dream house here because you have tons of lot coverage, so you can make tons of square footage. Or If you want to just go inside, you could take this house. It's so cute. It's a little 1.5 story. You could totally renovate it, update the kitchen, update the bathrooms, put some new hardwood floors in. Don't spend a lot of money and you could have a really super cool home. So there's a ton of potential. And oh my gosh, you can't beat this location. All the bike paths are close by. If you want to go biking up to Sunnybrook Park or down by the Don River or bike downtown, you've got the Evergreens, which is super cool. You can go to Somerhill, some great little shops, restaurant, cafes. You can go up to Leaside and up on Bayview, cool little restaurants, funky shops. There is so much to do, and it's a great neighborhood, great schools, great place to raise a family. So look, go to Stu'sHouse.ca, see all the photos, the virtual tour, the video, and give me, Stu, a call for a personal tour.
And we're back here in the fifth end of play here, draw 3 of the Canadian Junior Cup from Oshawa, Ontario. My name is Matthew Hall. Beside me, Mary Chilvers, bringing you all the action from the first 2 days of, at least the first 2 days of play here. And Mary, what's the report card of the first 4 ends there for the teams?
Yeah, well, just, just like in the game before, a lot of missed opportunities, and a lot of maybe not learning from what you're actually seeing out there, what your opponents are doing. Draw weight was a huge issue for both teams. So, and then of course, coming up light on that last draw was too bad. We were speaking about how we had to start throwing it lighter in order to find draw weight, but that was bad timing. That happened then.
Yeah. But hopefully, as we said, moving forward now that, she's seen both sides of it, maybe she can start to dial that in a little bit better now in the back half of this game. And certainly, they're not out of it.
No.
2 points is big deficit to come back in 4 ends, but certainly the game is not out of reach.
Yeah.
Especially the American lead stones not coming up in the best spots there. You got a rock top 12 that doesn't really do a whole lot, and then throwing what is essentially a corner guard after that. So the Swiss have things to work with here. If they can get one buried around this corner guard, that's a great way to start building up your 2 points for this end. Weight on that maybe wasn't all that bad, actually. That was just line.
It was,
Got a lot of early curl and sort of lost it.
I think this is the right choice, Matt. I think you have to come around here.
Yeah, I thought about it, like it I don't know why, if it's just sort of skipping me. Instinctively, it sort of like feels kind of too early or maybe a bit of a push, but I can't really think of anything else that you have to play. I mean, in a 2-point lead, you'd love to not, be putting too many rocks in play, but I mean, you can't hit anything, obviously, with the 5-rock rule.
Yeah.
So your only other option might be to try and play the tap, but we've seen that intern coming off the line there doesn't really like to curl a lot, and you'd hate to play some kind of a split or open things up for your opponent. So I think that's the call. And honestly, going through there isn't ideal. Probably better than a guard, though.
Mm-hmm.
So here the Swiss have the opportunity now to get things going. You, of course, are eventually going to have to deal with this redstone in the top of the 12-foot, so they're going to decide to do it now, try and hit it, roll over behind their guards, and this looks like a lot of weight. Not entirely sure what the call was, but as we've seen here many times, that spot off the line does not want to curl. And when that's the case, you really need to bring the weight down. Any additional weight, your sweepers have nothing that they can do with it, essentially. When you throw hack there, the sweepers might be able to help you hold it, maybe make it curl a little bit, but just that additional weight, and it has no chance. That's good. Makes the peel. Does the job.
Still a pretty good situation, though, for the Swiss.
I think so.
Really?
Honestly, I think both teams are more or less happy with what they're seeing right now.
Yeah.
The Swiss, of course, don't need to make a play on that red rock
No.
in the top 12. They could, but I think I'd be more inclined just to play the straight draw. And if you're the U.S., you're kind of thinking, well, yeah, they have the corner guard to play around of, but we have pressure in the center of the rings.
Yeah.
You know, we have the option to make a tap or a draw if we ever have to. Like, this rock line's looking okay. It just needs to sit down, maybe a little bit heavy again. Does hang on at the back of the rings. I believe the redstone is still shot rock.
That yellow rock, though, I hate when that happens, when that's my opposition. Those are little pesky things at the back there.
I see what Miranda's thinking. She wants to walk up and peel the guard, and I understand the thought of that. I think it's probably the right call. But, I mean, you're on devices, rocks now. It's getting a little late on the end. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with hitting that back stone either. The thing is that if you peel the guard, I think the only reason you'd be worried about that is because the Swiss can hit that rock in the top of the 12 foot. But if they do that, more or less, they're probably going to roll in front of their own. You're probably going to have the chance of the double. So I think the peel is fine. On the other hand, we've seen that they've struggled already this end to get a yellow stone around that guard. So maybe you're okay with hitting that back one and sort of letting them continue to try and figure it out because they haven't been able to do it so far.
I kind of like if they're peeling this guard, if they can, is to actually keep the rock and play over on the center line side there, where their other red rock is. Like I said earlier, it's almost impossible to plan that, but
yeah, that is always an option. Looks like that's what they're trying to do if they can. Probably going to hit this a little thin and roll over top. Could they push that other red somewhere? No. But again, that's fine. Yes, the Swiss can hit that red one, should they so choose, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to roll towards their other rock and leave you a makeable double. Like that's what's going to happen. I think this is the right call. I think the only other option if you're the Swiss is to try and draw around everything. But that you're just going out so far into a new spot. I don't think necessarily makes any sense to do that. Try to make this hit. Ideally, almost I'd like to roll far. Try to roll across past your other yellow to try and take the double out of play.
again, it's just such a straight spot. I don't know. I think even bringing the weight down a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. She probably could have brought the weight down. I mean, she didn't really throw a ton.
No, she
Maybe
didn't.
like that was a soft board kind of
Yeah,
thing. But yeah, it's just that spot is so tricky. And we haven't necessarily seen anybody miss on the tight side of things in that spot.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, she's still going to have her chances here, the Swiss team.
Yeah, and get some rolls out there, and it'll be interesting to see how the Swiss decide to play this. I think you have to, I think you have to play the out turn at it. I think you've thrown the in turn enough times that you should have an idea that it's not going to get there. So it's Alyssa Rudolph here, trying to bury this stone around the only guard in play. It doesn't seem all that bad. They just need to get it by the guard. It won't. It will wreck on that guard. Pushes the red stone actually closer to the center line, which can only benefit the Americans. You'd imagine she should be close on this. She just threw this shot essentially twice last end. Both of them were back 8, but actually get a time on this, see if we're starting to lose a little bit of weight here. I got about 15 seconds on that, Mary, so...
And it's still deep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's almost faster than what we've been seeing.
Yeah, maybe
day,
we're
which
being a
makes
little too
sense.
critical here, Matt. I think it might be just too fast.
Well,
if there's such a thing.
At some point, you can only miss so many heavy before there's not that much excuse. But yeah, it is very quick out there.
Well, the good news for USA is that it's just biting the back there, and it's not leaving a whole lot of room for the Swiss to score 2 points.
Yeah, and, you know, just like we saw last end, too, if the Swiss do happen to draw there, a lot of the time they're going to slip to that back red one, and there's enough room that you can draw another one on top. Whereas if you were just back button and the Swiss locked it on the T line, then you don't have that space.
Yeah.
One has plenty of line, needs to start curling. As long as the weight's good, it should be close. Definitely line's good, just need to get it far enough to be shot. And they will not, it'll come up just short. And I don't know, it's kind of tough to decide. I know what Miranda's thinking with that in-turn draw, but that's such a tough spot to get there. We've seen how straight that is. If you ever, for some reason, end up edge on edge or just open, then you leave the opportunity for the Swiss to get 2. Right now, if you don't throw, well, she might be able to play sort of the heavy in-turn draw, bump it back, but that spot's so tough. I think this call is fine, but the tolerance has to be light.
Yeah.
If you throw this anywhere from, say, top 8 to the hog line, there's probably no shot at all for 2 points for the Swiss. So final shot here in the fifth end for Miranda Scheel out of Minneapolis. Attempting to draw this into a good spot. The line looks very good. It's up to the sweepers now to get it there. They're going to leave it short, but again, I think that's, you know, you'd love to get that in there for second shot on that line, but that is absolutely a pro miss there. Swiss can play the same out-turn draw that they just did and tap it in there for shot. I don't think they could get enough of it to tap both rocks back for two, so I think mission accomplished there if you're the Americans. And it's surprising here, Mary, that they're actually choosing to play the straight draw. Because it is just a straight draw to the forefoot, not necessarily anything wrong with that, but I would have thought, you know, Isabella just threw the out turn. I would have thought she could have thrown the same shot just with a foot or two more weight, play the tap.
I do find, though, that the taps are, again, one of the hardest shots to make perfectly. You have to have the right line, the right weight, you have the broom in the exact right spot. That's not a hard tap, because like you say, I think you only have to move it a half a foot maybe to get shot rock out of it. So
yeah, I mean, it's more or less just the same broom, same shot she just threw. You just have to throw, you know, a foot or two more, which can be tricky with how fast the ice is. So Isabella Einspieler deciding to play the straight in-turn draw, needs full forefoot to score her single point here in the fifth end. She has struggled with her draw weight so far this game, and the sweepers are already backing off of this one too. Hoping this one grinds in, but it just isn't going to. It's going to slip all the way through the rings. It will be another steal of one for the Americans, who take a 3-0 lead after 5 ends of play. We'll see if the Swiss can put a stop to the thievery out here in the sixth end when we come back.
Anyone can be scared to try something new.
But moving outside of your comfort zone
Can open new possibilities.
And having the courage to change something doesn't change who you are.
So why try something new?
to innovate,
To create a legacy.
To make an impact.
You have to earn it.
And you better be ready.
To enjoy it.
Because you never know.
who else you might make an impact on.
What impact will you make?
Goldline, the choice of champions.
And welcome back to sixth end action here, draw 3. Canadian Junior Cup coming to you from Oshawa, Ontario. It's really nice that the Blizzards decided to let up just in time for this championship, Mary. I don't know about you're a lot closer here than I am, but back home the roads were not very pretty for a number of days over the holidays.
Yeah, that would have been not great. This event got canceled last year due to the pandemic, and so I know that the organizers were pretty excited to have this going on this year, and we were lucky. We didn't get much of a storm here. We got some snow, but nothing like what I'm seeing out there.
This rock slipping into the back 8-foot to start for Amelia Heinz. Definitely, as we said in the break, we're starting to get to the point now where the Swiss are running out of options. They're going to have to force the issue, put some rocks in play, toss up some corner guards, and see what they can get going. Only 3 ends remaining, so you'd imagine your path to a victory, it either includes a 3, maybe taking a 2, force and a 3, or a 2 and 2 steals, something like that, but none of those are very difficult options to execute, so they're going to have to push the envelope a little bit more than the Americans will here.
So both of the USA lead rocks, a little too deep for my liking. Swiss team are pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
Could ignore everything and try to come around their corner.
Again, we saw this a couple ends ago too, where the Amelia Hines slips a little deep, and they start getting a bit of a wall built up on the button after the Swiss go around the guard. This is definitely a situation where the Americans will likely choose to play at this yellow stone if it's accessible, rather than throw up another center guard. Hack is definitely fine to play at this shot. You could bring the weight down even more, maybe play just through, try to sort of just bump it out of play, and that gives you a little bit more room to work with, where if you ever touch the guard or something, you're less likely to take it out of play and have it come back. But
A little setback on that release.
just well wide.
Yeah.
Pushes her own rock, and yeah, I think that was just all in the release. Just
It
sort of
was,
set
yeah,
it
for sure.
back and never has a chance to come back for you. Weight was pretty good, actually. I think it was the right weight call, but you still need to throw those aggressively. Well, opportunity here for the Swiss. We've seen it's been tricky to try and get around this guard the last number of ends, but if they could ever get just to the inside of the one they just threw, that would be a great setup, I think. We've already seen a couple times the Americans have struggled to remove these rocks. That's okay. Bring up another corner is never going to hurt you. Be a little bit careful playing this. Of course, if you end up nosing it, that definitely makes the double, but you're going to stay in front of the other yellow stone. But if you hit it too thin on the center line side and that yellow jams into the other guard, very good chance that starts spinning towards the rings. And if that ever rolls in, could have a good opportunity there for the Swiss. This one needs to curl up. It's going to be very close to what I was saying. Definitely start spinning into the rings. Will it stick around or will it push all the way through? And it does just stay out of the rings at the end. No spin back. So very good shot at the end of the day. I think maybe a sigh of relief for the Americans. Probably want to see another corner guard. At least one, do you think, Mary? Guard that one in the rings?
Yeah, I think it certainly can't hurt, and I definitely don't like hitting anything.
I don't know. A blank is pretty much a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
If you're blanking, that means you're hoping to get 3 and 7 and steal to win the game, and I think that's a bit of a stretch. So, I mean, by hitting this early, you're just giving the Americans so many opportunities to make a double, and at the very worst, force you. And I think a force might actually be even worse than the blank if you're the Swiss in this situation. So, ends up in a good spot. Technically, there's no double yet. U.S. could hit and roll to the center line right on top.
Yeah, you know, you don't even have to worry about the double, especially if it's not a real makeable double. Just hit. Yes,
Yeah.
just hit. Get rid of one of them.
That slash double 90% of the time will just jam on that red
Yeah.
over on the other side. So Don't worry about it. Just make the hit and roll in front. Just think about you have the 3-point lead
That's
if you're
right.
the American.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there is no reason why you need to make things harder for yourself.
No.
You just need to push the Swiss into making harder shots and having to make tough shots. And if you hit and roll right on top, that will definitely make it tough on the Swiss.
This one's over curling a bit. And even if you give up 2 points to the Swiss, that's a
fine.
win
Yeah.
as well for
Yep.
the USA. So
You give up 2, you take 1, you're up 2 in the last end.
Yep.
You know, you're in a great situation. So
now this is a very I mean, if you hit and stick, I suppose it's fine, but it's there's really no need to hit this rock. Could freeze to it.
yeah, I thought about maybe playing the freeze. I thought that might be a bit more of a prudent call. Probably either way, it's very easy to leave a double, but at least keeping that red rock around gives maybe something to jam on,
Yeah.
like some other possibility. Double is there, but it's very thin. I think you'd always play it the other way if you're going to play the double, but I guess you could play the slash as well.
Just a hit and roll here would be fine. Hit shot rock, roll in front of the other yellow one.
Hit and roll in
Fine.
front, and the only way for the Swiss to try and do something would be some sort of lightweight tap, which
Yeah.
is very difficult. This one was set back on release, so they're going to have to wait a while to see if this one is going to curl for them, and don't think it will. Maybe a last-ditch effort to try and get a slash double. They won't.
You got to be careful on these ones as well. I mean, your automatic thought is to just go way over to the other side of the rings, but what can happen here, depending on where it ends up, you can actually leave quite a makeable double.
Right.
Sometimes it's better just to put it even a little closer to the center line where they can't get a double and stick.
Yeah, side 4 is fine if it's top 8, top 12 kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
a very difficult double. And just like that, so as I was saying, you're side 4, but you're top 8, that's pretty much as tough a double as you
Yep.
could leave them. You have to be careful on these. You'd love to make the double, but a lot of times you play it so aggressively that you just miss entirely. So make sure you have a piece of the yellow stone out of your hand and let your sweepers do the rest. Trying to hold it to make the double. Looks like it's going to catch it a bit too thick, and it will. Almost noses it. Sticks around, though. That red might be shot. Swiss does look like they are. So the Swiss are going to have to make a play on that stone. If they end up rolling towards the other yellow rock, may leave a double.
Mm-hmm.
First rock here for Isabel. Einspieler here in the 6th end of play at the Canadian Junior Cup, trying to give her team a chance to come back into this game and get 2. Little bit full, but the weight is down, so it should come back for her. Well, hits it on the nose, sits 2. And still a very difficult but makeable double for the Americans here. Try and get a force. So Miranda Scheel here attempting to make the double. Get her team out of this tough situation. Force a single point. She'll get one, just run it by the second one, so won't make the double. And it'll be a free draw for 2 points here for Isabel Einspieler out of St. Gallen, Switzerland. And I'm sure if you're Isabel, you're pretty happy to have this sort of no pressure draw. We've seen her be a little heavy on a couple of her ones last end.
She threw a draw on the last end and came up a little heavy, I believe.
I believe it sailed through the rings, but she did have to only get the 4-foot on that, so she's pulled the string a little bit here. Sweepers have to work on this to get there for her second point. Alyssa Rudolph, Lynn Haupt, Renee Frigo aren't able to get it there. It'll be a single point for the team out of Switzerland. It'll be a 3-1 lead for the Americans with the hammer when we come back in the 7th end. For now, we'll take a quick commercial break.
Doesn't matter if you're just learning how to play.
Or competing at the top level of the game.
We all go for fun.
And Gold Line gear?
This is for everyone.
These shoes are more comfortable than ever.
These are stable.
These make me slide straight.
These make me slide fast.
The new impact head maximizes performance.
And can we talk about grip zone technology?
Because it's on the brooms and the gloves.
Beginner or pro, they got something for you.
It's a gold line.
It's a Gold Line.
It's a Gold Line.
And it's the choice of champions.
We're back here to pick up 7th end of action here in the Canadian Junior Cup. It looks like the Swiss have started the end by using one of their 2 timeouts. Maybe not the worst idea, actually. Definitely have struggled with certain spots of the ice, with their draw weight at times. We saw Isabel come up light on that draw here. Maybe not the worst idea for the coach to come out, have a couple words with them, try to sort of get them ready for these last 2 ends of play. Maybe give them a little bit of break to take a deep breath and settle down.
Yeah, I'm sure the skipper feels pretty bad about missing that draw. I mean, it was an open draw to the house, but lots of struggles with draw weight in this game by both teams, really.
And I think we all know how that feels. We've all been there when you just can't figure out your draw weight. You can't hit the house if your life depended on it. It's a really tough feeling to be out there, but hopefully they can figure some things out. Her teammates can be there to help bring her up to her potential. So we'll definitely see the Swiss here try to put up a center guard to start.
There's no worse feeling when you're lead, when your sweepers are just walking beside your rock because they know it's heavy.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be a guard and ends up in the back of the forefoot. So just struggles all around, I would say, by both teams on their draws. Unfortunately, you know, when that's the case, it's usually the team with the hammer that gets hurt if their skip can't make those last draws. But all the teams have struggled.
Well, they really panicked on the sweep on that one, and it seemed just fine to me.
Yeah, they did want to roll a little bit.
Yeah,
I think maybe the vice, Tessa Thurlow, was a little bit worried that they were missing it with the way it was being called, so urging on her sweeper. They end up nosing it. Not an ideal spot where you'd like your rock if you're the Americans, but it's covering the pin. It's above the tee line. Can't have too many complaints about it with a 2-point lead. Still plenty of work for the Swiss to do.
Well, the Swiss are calling a freeze here on this one, which is, in my opinion, a little too soon. Get that guard out the free guard zone where they can't move it.
Yeah, you know, the hardest shot in curling is the perfect freeze. And you pretty much have to make a perfect freeze there, or else the Americans would be able to just hit it.
Yeah. I think it's in the rings.
Difficult to tell. It seemed like...
Actually, I guess it's not in the rings.
I think they were discussing whether or not it was on the center line to see if they could tick it. I'm not sure if that's...
Is that rule in effect?
I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. We'd have to go ask our rules person on that, actually. But either way, it seemed like they decided it wasn't. So regardless, they would be able to tick it. They're going to try that. Maybe a little bit light, though, so they're going to have to try and hold this. They don't want to nose tap the guard into the rings. They will tap it pretty much straight back. At the very least, I guess it's good that it's half open. It's not dead frozen on that red. You could pick it later, but not an ideal outcome for the Americans there.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, set up a double though. It's risky, but I like the peel. Yeah, I like it.
They've decided to come in and freeze right on top of their yellow rock, sitting on the top 4 foot.
That just seems like you're asking to set up a double or something.
You are, because the angle's not going to be great.
I'm not sure what else you could call, though. You could, I guess, call the wide in turn draw, maybe
Yeah.
go back 8 around everything. That could be a way to set up a multiple score. I guess you could just throw a center guard as well.
You can,
Trying
yeah.
to set up a steal that way. That's not an awful result. There's no real double there, but I think... Yeah, I think that's probably what I was thinking. The ruck that's really hurting you right now, the way those yellows are set up, you'd love to have just a straight shot at them.
Yeah.
You don't have that with that guard in the way, so
Yeah.
get rid of the guard. If you can ever run it back and get some of these yellows moving, that'd be great as well. This definitely needs to come up a little bit. They will make the run back, and actually,
Great shot.
absolutely fantastic. Keeps the rock that was run back in the rings, kicks the other red out of the way, so now the yellow's not frozen to anything. I think if you're the Swiss here, I think you might just have to sort of guard for your life.
I think so too.
You just try to make 4 or 5 guards in a row and not hope the U.S. can't pick it out at any point. I think hitting the back one, I don't think there's anything you could hit that would be helpful to you, or... I think they've talked about freezing this back one, which I guess, in theory, if you can make it perfect, isn't necessarily a bad call. Do you think if it's something you're going to go for, I would maybe do it later in the end?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind trying a couple guards up. Because you can basically waste as much time as you want here. You can toss up guards forever. You know the Americans are going to go and peel it. Even if you leave the rock that's top 4 open in some way and the Americans decide to pick it out, you're still going to have a guard up that you can try and draw around and make better. This, if you don't make the freeze perfect, you're just inviting the Americans to hit and sit too, which is basically what you've left here. There's no real double, but the Americans can just nose hit that top yellow sit too, and there's no real issues. Don't hate either shot here, nose hit or roll in front of your own. I think either is actually okay. Really, anywhere that you can go that ends up sitting 2, I think is good for the U.S. Excellent shot there by Tessa Thurlow. Now be up to the Swiss Vice, Alyssa Rudolph, to try and match her opponent here and make a better one. Trying to make the same freeze? Who do you think is the
I
call,
think
Mary?
so, yeah. Or even, you know, kind of half around the top red one. Just to get it in there somewhere.
Yeah. It is starting to look like if the Swiss can get a rock in there, it would be a little bit difficult to remove it. Can even bump off your own maybe a little if you're touch heavy.
Yeah.
Roll in there. This is really starting to curl early. Rex on that top red stone pushes it out of the way, and that's not good if you're the Swiss. That red stone in the top of the 8, but that was maybe your savior. You could have hidden something around it, but moves it out of the way to the top of the 4-foot now. Now you don't really have any other options to use. The U.S. don't even need to make the double here. Obviously, if you hit it close to nose, you make it. That's great. But even if they hit one, just roll in or remove one of the yellow stones, it's all pressure on Switzerland here to gonna have to come up with something really well to keep themselves to have a chance of even playing an 8 then.
Yeah, I think USA would just be really happy to score in this end period. And it's one's got some work to do.
I don't know what you're saying, sorry.
Looks like they're just going to make the pick. Was a little wide on the throw there. Removes the one Yellowstone. In all honesty, not the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ja, wie man halt der Doppel jetzt machen. Der liegt immer zweimal und ins Verteilen. Yeah. Joe. Yeah, she said you were a little bit out, but it also fell. 11-3. Okay. Shooter ist halt wichtig. Ja, ich weiß. That's fine. Wir können auch so. Yeah. One there's fine.
And if you're the Swiss here, I don't know if a force is really all that great an outcome here. I think if you have the opportunity to try and generate some kind of steal or put the pressure on the Americans, you sort of have to. I think the call here is to try and almost make the double and roll into the open and sit 2, which would be nice that you're sitting 2, but it's wide open. There's nothing stopping the Americans from making a nose hit to score their single point. I think I was a bit more inclined to see the hit and roll in front of those other rocks. It looks like they more or less made the double, but it did jam. It's difficult to tell. I'm going to say red is shot. I don't... Looking at our little screen here in the booth, I think red is shot. So opportunity here to make this hit on the nose. Sit 2 for Jordan Hine. Will make a very nice hit. A little bit of a roll, but still hangs around. Far enough off to the side. I don't think there's an easy double where the Swiss could hang around and sit 2.
Would you ever just play a freeze on that one?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I definitely would think about it if red is for sure 2, and if this red one was behind the tee line, absolutely, I'd call the freeze all day. It looks like it's pretty close, though. You'd probably have to maybe play like a little tap.
Tap on it, yeah.
But that wouldn't be a bad option at all.
Little inside on this one.
Yeah, this is definitely going to curl with this turn, too. Absolutely need to stick around on this shot. They won't. They'll just roll out of the ring, so it'll be a nose hit here for Miranda Scheel to sit 3, and I mean, barring some sort of outstanding shot by the Swiss and a miss by the U.S., basically to put the game away here, I think. I think if you hit this on the nose, Isabel Einspieler will be forced to make a perfect freeze somewhere. And even if you do, more than likely the Americans will be able to blast it in some way to at least get their 2.
On its own, just keep a brim down. Keep a brim down, running nice. Okay. Yeah, 9-7. Good, Miranda.
They were a bit surprised. They were a bit lackadaisical about that, and they end up rolling to basically the only spot on the sheet that gives the Swiss an opportunity here. So
Yeah, they weren't really thinking that through very well because the Swiss were going to play a freeze no matter what. Now they have a little bit of a better chance of making a freeze that will be harder to remove.
yeah, and I know it's so easy on that to be like, okay, it's just a nose hit to set 3. Like you stop thinking about it and you think pretty much anything is okay. But I mean, those are the shots that you need to, you know, stay focused on. You sort of just need to drive that last nail in the coffin, right? Like you have the opportunity. And granted, the Swiss still have to make a very good shot.
They do.
But you've given them the opportunity now to find their way out of this end.
That's what always gets me is stop giving opportunities that you could have avoided.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty simple one to avoid. So
I mean, even if you hit and roll out, that's probably
it's better.
better than
Yeah.
what just happened. So
Das ist nicht schlecht. Linie! Linie! Mine's good. Weiter! 14-7. Yep. Whoa.
be careful here. Don't want to bounce it off.
yeah, this looks pretty close. Just depends how far it's going to bounce. And there you go. That's
Pretty nice rock.
that's a very excellent shot by Isabel Einspieler to keep this game alive.
Yeah, like here. Okay. Like 9? 8? I like a 9. Okay.
And is the call here to hit this on the nose, I think?
She's calling for a 9. I don't know. Does she think she could hit it on the high side and it'll remove the back red one and roll out and she can score 2? I don't know.
I think to remove that yellow, you're probably hitting it so thin that you actually hit both red stones and remove everything. I think there's the opportunity where if you could throw enough weight and hit it on the nose, that yellow would sort of spin around the horn of the reds. You could get it going out of the house to the right as we look at the overhead.
Okay.
I think so.
Sort of making the call from the hack, but again, it's one of those situations where I'd almost like to see Miranda Scheel get back up, go down, rather than just asking her vice, does nose work? Actually go down, look at it, decide exactly what it is you want to do. This is curling early. They need to hold it, get it on the nose. It's going to be very close. And very good. That little extra spin spins it out of the rings. Scores her 2 points for Miranda Scheel and the Americans. And the Swiss have had enough. That's handshakes. The Americans will record a 5-1 win over the Swiss team here in draw 3.
Well, lucky for her there, Matt, the rocks were very lively and the rings are very lively, so she got a lot of action off of that, even though she jammed it into the pile.
Yeah, it ended up working out really well for her. She was able to throw the right way, get that last little bit of spin. Was a great game here by the Americans, come out with a 5-1 win. They move to 2-0 on the week so far. The Swiss will drop to 1-1. That'll be it for us here in the third draw at the Canadian Junior Cup, coming to you from Oshawa, Ontario. Myself, Matthew Hall, Mary Chilvers beside me in the booth would like to thank everyone for tuning in to watch. Our next game will be the men's draw at 4:15 Eastern p.m. We'll have Team King versus Team Nepage. And for now, we'll sign off, go grab some quick food, maybe a little bit of an early dinner, and we'll see you back then.